5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Well, hello and welcome on board the LiveSafari that has just kicked off. My name is Scott. I'm teamed up with Tebs on camera and really looking forward to the adventure this morning. There's been a report of lions calling from Lynn. Thank you very much. Lynn's obviously been listening very closely to the Djuma waterhole, which has got some wonderful new speakers that pick up great audio. And Lynn, you were not the only person to hear those lions. Mr. Leo Smith, who is driving the other vehicle this morning, also heard the lions, and he's headed in the direction that they were calling in, which was north and east towards kind of Buffelshoek Dam, the northeastern corner of Djuma. Myself and Tebs are doing a bit of a pincer movement and working the western side of Djuma, and are also going to continue east kind of towards where Brent is along our northern boundary. I'm hoping that we're going to find any sign of possibly Karula, a female leopard, coming back from that area. We know she headed there yesterday morning, and let's hope that she's going to come back onto Djuma sometime, or has already last night, and then we can follow her tracks. As I said, this is a live safari. Please let us know your thoughts, comments and questions, and to do so you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Now, if this is your first safari, please let us know. And we've got new people joining every day, and it's so wonderful that the family is growing very, very quickly. Happy to hear from John, who is saying, here, kitty, kitty, and that would be great. Lion or leopard to start off the sunrise safari would be great. Lion have been a little bit scarce as of late, but that happens from time to time. They move off for a couple of weeks and then come back, or they come back when we're asleep, which has happened once or twice, and then disappeared in the course of the night. That's great news. And Angel Lady says, yes, come a little bit closer. And hopefully both the lion and the leopard have come closer to Djuma last night. It certainly is possible. But if they haven't, the good news is there's so much else to see and explore and enjoy out here that it won't be a major issue if in fact they have not made it to where we are. And we have found some leopard tracks. Let me just reposition the vehicle. They're female leopard tracks, and they're heading along Vuyatila access straight towards the entrance gate to the Sabi Sands. Now what I'm going to try and do is shine the spotlights at a low angle, like that, and then Teb should be able to find some of the tracks. There we go. Now you can see them quite nicely. Now what I'm going to try and do is simulate how tracking in the early morning when the sun is at a low angle, like this, I'm holding the spotlights at kind of 3 feet off the ground, dangling my arm out the window. Now as I lift the spotlights up and shine it straight down onto the tracks, as the sun would be when it's high above us, look at how difficult it is to see them, because you're not getting that shadow cast from a low angle. There's the low angle again. So that gives you an idea of why it's best to track in the early morning and the late evening. You can see her back pad and the toes in front of that, so heading down this road in the same direction that we're heading in. And this is interesting. I'm not too sure who this could be. I mean, it could be Karula, but it also could be Shadow or another young female leopard who's also been seen in this general area. And her name is Shiluva, and we don't see her very often. Great start though, and before we even got to where we thought we were going to find some tracks, we were in the money. Now we have the tricky job of trying to work out where exactly she has gone. Hey, Mike in Florida has just let us know that he's got a lucky feeling. He's feeling good about this morning. And Mike, I hope you're right. I'm also feeling good though. So that makes two of us. I'm just going to drive very slowly now, just to try and make sure I don't miss where her tracks may leave this road. Ideally, she'll stay on this road for quite some time, but there are no guarantees. Yes, I love following tracks though. It's one of the most exciting things you can do out here, because now we know a leopard walked you. I mean, how long ago? Not too sure, but definitely last night. And somewhere on the end of these footprints is a leopard. Now I'm going to do my best to try focus staying on her track. She's crossed onto the left-hand side of the road now. And while we do that, you guys are going to be jumping onto Brent's vehicle for a quick update.
Good morning and welcome to Safari Live. I'm Brent Leo Smith. I've got VM on camera, and that's a buffalo bull doing his morning ablutions. So we're right in the area where I think the lions might have been calling earlier this morning, and it's right on our northeastern corner. There's a herd of buffalo that passed through here that we saw on yesterday's sunrise safari, and I was hoping maybe they'd attracted the lions into this area. And as we can see, one buffalo bull looks like he might be trailing the herd, and we're just going to sit for a little bit longer quietly here. Probably the last time I heard them roaring was about 25 minutes ago. So I'm hoping now that we're much closer, that if we get some audio to give us a better idea of where they are. Unfortunately, my gut tells me they're further to the east towards Kruger that way. But this is definitely one of my favorite times of the day. Pre-dawn, first light, the bush seems so new and fresh. Almost no wind. There's a tiny little breeze moving some of the leaves, but in this nice, cool, still morning, the sound travels quite nicely, so we just want to hear that. Maybe they'll listen to me and come jogging in. Unlikely though. The final control thought that was a real lion. Unfortunately it wasn't, it was just me. So Vim, what do you think?
There we go, look for some lions or leopards.
Yeah, I think...
Or all of the above.
All of the above. Wild dogs check. We'll find all the animals all the time. So we're just going to listen for one more minute, and then I'm going to head off further south. So Lauren in New York's wondering how long has it been since the lion's been seen on the live safaris. Lauren, it's been quite a while. The 24th of December 2015 was the last lion seen. You can hear that bird calling behind us. A red-crested Koran. Well, we're going to head further east down. Further south down the eastern boundary. Keep checking for tracks, maybe something to come in. There's always a good chance of finding tracks of something around these parts. Oh, now there's an interesting sight. There's a corralled group of buffalo on the road. I wonder if they are a gentleman's club, or is it a small breeding herd? If it is a small breeding herd, the way they're lying, They could have had a busy night trying to see off the cats. Because I think it could be part of the larger breeding herd that we saw yesterday that maybe has been split and chased, but still no signs of lion tracks yet, just buffalo tracks everywhere. No running buffalo tracks, so have a closer look. I think it is a little breeding herd. Slightly more of them as they looks like they spread all the way down there. Hello, flows. They look a little bit too relaxed to have been overly harassed by kitty cats last night. But it is a good sign they're still in the area, and a breeding herd of buffalo with all their noises that they make is pretty much a beacon to lions who are on the hunt. Oh, tiny little calf. There's a couple of really small calves in this group, born in the last week or so. I see they might have been harassed last night. The buffalo quite often do this. They'll find a slightly more open area, corral together overnight as one of the defense mechanisms against lions. They're those noises I'm talking about that attract lions. There's that little one. It's a very young calf. There's a couple of little babies here. And Mariette's wondering, how do we distinguish between lion and leopard tracks? Well, Mariette, lion tracks are much, much bigger. There's another little one. That's 3 little babies that I can see just in this little group here. All quite young. Now, buffalo have quite an interesting thing. One of the only animals that can, the calves can feed while the herd is on the move, and that's because they obviously traverse quite big distances between food and water, and the calves will actually walk directly behind the mom, suckling as they move. So that one on the left, let's have a look at that one lying down on the left, tiny baby underneath there. That looks like it could even be younger than the others. And look at that buffalo eyeing us out between the legs of the rest of the herd. And that is tiny, a couple of days old. So that bull we initially saw as I wandered towards the herd, it looked like he could be trailing the herd. Now, he's quite an old bull. And it's interesting to see if the younger bulls in this herd take offense to his arrival. So stopping just off the distance. There's another sort of set of bulls. So quite often the bulls will sleep on the peripheries of the herd in case of a visitation by lions. Here we go. Welcoming committees on their way. See, adult bulls, not quite as old as this guy who's just arrived. Look a bit younger, not quite as beaten. You can see the one on the left from the herd is a smaller body size. Buffalo standoff. Love 3 Dogs is wondering, are the lions we heard most likely tracking this buffalo herd? Well, it's very difficult to say. There's probably 7 or 8 buffalo herds around in the northern Sabi Sands at the moment. So we just got to hope this is the closest buffalo herd to those lions that were calling this morning. But it doesn't look like it from their behavior. It doesn't look like they've been too harassed overnight. But you never know until we can find some tracks, or even better, some lines. Right, there we go. A snort and a couple of more steps. You can see the stance of the left-hand male. So of course, there'll be a number of males that'll stay with this breeding herd, but sometimes males do come and go from the herd. There's often some incredible fights for the mating rights in the herds. Obviously, being within a herd is very beneficial if you want to spread your genetics. It looks like this buffalo might have been part of the herd, he just might have been left behind. Or otherwise, this buffalo is making a very clever sneak attack, but the old bull moves into position, make sure he's not blindsided. And we got a little bit of displaying going on. So you see that he's rubbing his horns against that little bush there. So Dylan in Iowa is wondering, is the older bull likely to be more likely to get caught by the lions? Out of a herd like this, Dylan, they generally prefer to go for sub-adults. Okay, so now he's smelling females, and one would say he could be quite excited. There's a bit more displaying going on behind him. It is possible he is part of this herd, but just the way he's approaching. Now let's have a look. Haven't seen a good buffalo boxing match for a while. Unfortunately, I don't think. Oh, there we go. It's actually submissive behavior that's going on here. And so this other bull's actually showed this submissive behavior to the big bull who's moved in. So it probably is part of the herd. And one of the more dominant bulls in the herd. So we're going to sit with this herd a little bit longer and listen again. And while we do that, let's go across to Scotty, who's got one of our feathered friends.
So there was a woodpecker drumming loudly in a tree next to us, but it flew off. Not a problem though, we've got a plan B. Take a look further down the road here. Now, the female leopard tracks veered north and east off our main access road. Hello, Zebbies. And we're heading towards this boundary road, which is our western boundary. And I've got a feeling that she may be heading towards a little water hole on their side. We're just on our way to check carefully just to make sure she did in fact cross. Because if she didn't, then we know she's still on Juma, which is good news. So let's see what happens. I'm sure in the next few meters we'll find out whether she has in fact crossed. It's not too far to this waterhole, and I think the zebra could well be on their way there. Now we're when checking for tracks, it's often very, very useful to move slowly so that you don't miss anything. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. Especially in the early morning, because the sun hasn't come up yet. It's not too easy to see the tracks. Just a little bit further down, about 20 meters further down, is the actual road to the waterhole, but you could have crossed just a little bit north or a little bit south of that road. There's a lot of little game trails, miniature highways that lead towards the waterhole. And I'm hoping that we're going to find her track somewhere here. Even if she's headed there for a drink, she could well come back, especially if it is Karula. Brian, very happy to hear that you've got faith in me. Brian seems to think I've got what it takes to find this leopard. And thank you, Brian. Now I'm feeling the pressure. Awesome. Well, we do have these zebras right in front of us here. Off it goes. Not to worry. So no tracks. No tracks. That's not a bad thing, because that could well mean that the leopard is still in our midst, but there is also a chance that I've missed her tracks crossing here. So the zebra also seem a little bit on edge, which makes me think that maybe the leopards passed through here fairly recently. To Doug in Arizona, who's interested to clear up some interesting behavior amongst predators. And Doug knows that predators realize that they've got competition with one another, and therefore they kill one another at any opportunity. Lions in this area being the predator that's the top of the food chain, and depending on numbers, there's various different kind of hierarchies that could unfold, but it's basically lion, hyena, leopard, wild dog, depending on numbers, but probably wild dog, then leopard, then cheetah. And they will all kill one another, but quite often they won't feed on the opponent, their kill of their opponents. And we'd like to know, why is that the case? It's hard to be certain why that's the case, but it's not always the case that they don't feed on one another. And it's a bit of a misconception that was written in textbooks, probably mostly older textbooks, but initially I remember when I started out my guiding career, the thought process was that when predators kill another predator, they don't feed on them. Now, that's not always the case, and I've seen leopard feeding on wild dog, leopard feeding on cheetah, leopard feeding on their own cubs that have been killed, to be honest, by other leopard. So it's certainly not that predators will not feed on other predators. The same goes for lions. Sometimes lion will feed on predators that they've killed, be it their own species, young cubs, old lioness, hyena. So basically it is possible, it just varies and depends on the individual animals and on the individual day. So now I'm just going to go back up this road to check extra carefully to see that our tracks have not crossed. And if they don't, then I'll probably jump off and go for a short walk through this block. She could be sleeping somewhere very close by. It's not far at all from the road that she was moving along to our right. to where we are here. It's probably only about a quarter of a mile. So it's a very small wedge of area that I've had to check. And let's send you back to Brent with the baby buffalo as Tibbs and myself continue trying to fine-tune this leopard search.
So we moved to where the three little babies were, and that one there, when he turns around, you actually see still got a piece of his umbilical cord attached and not very sure on his feet. I'm guessing probably born yesterday, so the youngest of the three little guys. And there's, I'd say, the second youngest, also very young, no more than a couple of days old, still snoozing. And then just behind, the oldest of the three little ones, and very thirsty he is. And you can actually see the milk on his lip every now and then when he gets there. And watch carefully. And when he feels like the udders aren't producing, there we go, enough milk, he'll tug quite hard and headbutt them. And we saw Impala doing that yesterday on the sunset safari. And it is quite a common thing in a lot of animals. It's to stimulate milk production. There we go, you can see he's got a bit of a milk moustache. And you can hear a buffalo peeing in the background. Almost sounds like there's a bust water pipe somewhere. And this cow's giving us the evil eye. She's come closer to us and just giving us a good look. And it's a perfect example there of a buffalo cow. If you look at the horns, it doesn't have those massive hard bosses that the males have. You can see there's quite a lot of hair there. Oh, she's got a bit of a growth above her eye. And then you can see the dominant, one of the dominant bulls is walking off now. And it's actually quite nice. We can see quite a few different stages of a buffalo bull's horns in here. Let's start on this big boy here, just to the left there. You can see. And if we zoom right in close on the boss, we can see there's no hair growing on it. It's hard. So it's already hardened, and quite often you hear the term, there we go, you can see, for a buffalo called a soft boss. And let me just have a quick look. There's a young male over here. You can see his, and let's actually start with that one there, that guy there. So he's an adult, but his boss hasn't fully hardened yet. You can see there's a little bit of hair there, but it is getting there, so he's still quite young. And you can see he's going to be a nice big boy. And there we go, there's a younger male there, and you can see quite a lot of hair on his boss. So very still much a soft boss. Safari Dean says they start out so cute and end up kind of ugly. Sorry, buffalo. Yes, our buffalo are not the prettiest animal we have in the bush, but a really important cog in the ecosystem, especially the big breeding herds. And as they move, they turn over the ground. Hoof action is what it's called, and it helps push grass seeds deeper into the ground. They're also great big mowing and fertilizing machines at the same time. You can see the preorbital gland there, just under that female's eye. And we've got two species of bird that are quite attached to buffalo herds at this time of the year. Of course, the ever-present oxpeckers. And these guys have just arrived, they've just woken up. And we can see, there we go, red-billed oxpecker. So a bit of morning preening. And there is, where did they go now? There we go. Okay. There we go, just that little bush there. Just zoom in, just behind that buffalo lying down. And there we go, you see them there. There's another bird that actually often follows buffalo herds at this time. There's a male wattled starling who got nearly kicked, but is underneath the head of that one there now. Oh, off it goes. That's feeding off whatever insects are disturbed as the buffalo move, whereas the oxpeckers are actually feeding off. There comes a bull ploughing through the middle. Oh, there you go. Wattled starling jumped up onto the stick there to avoid being trampled. Oh, see this big bull causing a bit of havoc as he moves through the herd, pushing buffalo out of the way as he goes.
Like he's waking them up.
Yep, waking it up. Time to get moving. We can actually see there he's sniffing to check if that female's possibly in estrus or ready for mating. Buffalo don't have a specific breeding season like a lot of the other animals like wildebeest and impala, and they'll breed throughout the year. You can see the dust caused by that little ruckus. I don't think they're going to get moving too much. As it gets warmer, they will try and move towards some water. And so Meredith is wondering, do buffalo get fleas? Not really. Their hair's a bit short for fleas, but they do get a lot of ticks and mites. But other animals out here, Meredith, do get fleas. Hyenas, leopard, lion, jackal. A lot of your carnivores will have fleas. Normally, your short-haired animals have less fleas, and some of these buffalo don't have much hair on them at all. Dylan in Iowa wonders, does anyone know what buffalo milk tastes like? Well, Dylan, I think it'd be quite difficult to milk one of these guys. They are well known for being quite cantankerous, especially one of the more dangerous animals on foot in the bush, all the old buffalo bulls. But Dylan also says must be very heavy in protein, needs to get some for his workout procedure. I think the workout would be getting the buffalo milk, Dylan, rather than the milk itself. Well, Indian water buffalo, obviously this is a Cape buffalo or African buffalo. Indian water buffalo are farmed in Italy for something quite a few people, I'm sure, have tasted. Mozzarella de boeuf. Oh, yellow bull. There we go. Yellow-billed oxpecker. It just disappeared. There it is, going on to there. Now there's the more rare oxpeckers. Then we've got a yellow bull and a red bull next to each other. You can see the yellow bull's slightly larger. Oh, he's got a big tick. And the yellow bulls took it from him. and see there, the bigger oxpecker species stole it. Oh, isn't that awesome? Oh, it's almost too big to swallow. So they've got little... Oh, there we go. No. We might see it. Oh, no, there you got it down. I was wondering if we were going to have to perform the Heimlich maneuver on that yellow-billed oxpecker. That was a big meal, stolen from the red bull. So Tom and Dallas would like to know who cleans the ticks from the oxpeckers. Well, they don't really get any ticks. They're a bit small. They do get mites, and one of the ways they do try to control mites is with dust bathing. There we go. You can see there's a red-billed oxpecker searching for ticks. So their oxpeckers' beaks are like a little serrated comb, and they're able to sort of go through the hair and pick out the ectoparasites. Always remember there's lots of tick species of different sizes. So a lot of these buffalo have a lot of ticks around their sort of nether regions, udders and that. And GNB is wondering, wouldn't that hurt? I get more itches. It's more irritating than painful. And so you'll often find buffalo sort of straddling a bush and having a good scratch to try and get rid of them. And of course, ticks are quite important in the bush. Everything does have their niche in the ecosystem. Especially on older animals, can actually lose condition because of ticks and get infestations completely. But I think this buffalo look like some of them are starting to sort of wake up and move on a little bit, but the majority are still bedded down. So I think we're going to move on, see if we can find any tracks. Those lions just have not been playing along. They have not called again. So let's carry on, see what else is out here. Very important, let the vehicle run for a few seconds. I don't want to give them a big fright, and that's why we managed to get so close to even these little babies, because we approached very slowly in low range. We didn't rush in, so just let the vehicle run for a little bit before we move past them. Bye guys. Jared never thought he'd enjoy certain animals before watching this show. There's now a buffalo staring him down is one of his favorites. So when a buffalo sort of looks down his nose at you, it's always said that he looks at you like you owe him money. You can imagine that a buffalo bull, you have to make a caricature of some of the animals out here, he'd be the loan shark. Osborne would like to know whether the males are more dangerous than the females in regards for humans. Generally, yes, and it is the buffalo bulls, and I'll explain that now. But I've just spotted a European roller. Don't fly! Oh, you little. Get him through there, will you? Unfortunately, he disappeared. We'll keep looking for another one. So, he said the reason the males are more dangerous generally for humans, it's the sort of retired gentleman's club, those old bulls that have moved away from the breeding herds. Breeding herds per se on foot are not nearly as risky to approach. And you know, I've sat and had a whole breeding herd on top of a termite mound, and a whole breeding herd go around me. But those particular buffaloes, old bulls like the ones we see around at the Juma waterhole camp, they are possibly more dangerous. I'm just going to update Aubrey. Morning, Mr. Khambi of Nyari Chile Cutline, close to the junction bubbles of Cutline. Scott's following up on Wansati, Ingo and Konzo around Vuetele Access. I'm not sure what the last direction was. And there was audio of Ngala to the east of Chile Cutline Junction, bubbles of Cutline.
Okay, COVID.
Copy. Orb Scott's on foot at the moment, so I think as soon as he gets back on the vehicle, he can give you an update on where to check. there we go, just keeping everyone up to date. It is really important. Finding animals is a team game and we all help each other. So back to Lisa's question, and the reason being that those buffalo bulls are potentially more dangerous than the breeding herds is that they're past their prime, they're a bit old, a bit blind, a bit deaf. They also like to lie up in thickets around sort of dry creek beds and pans, and they don't move too far, and they can actually really sleep, and quite often you can surprise them, and that's when it can be potentially dangerous. And with most animals there's sort of that flight, and it's the 3 F's. They get a fright, and now it depends whether you're sitting in the flight or fight zone. Oh, bit of sand in the brakes, sorry about that. A quick look here. Let's check for tracks. So there's sort of 3 things. If an animal gets a fright, it looks up, and depending on how close you are to it, and each animal and species has very different flight and fright zones, and in a lot of cases even the different individuals will have different fright and flight zones, fight and flight zones. So 90% of the time, if you're not too close, you're in that flight zone and animals will move away. But if you happen to be in the fight zone, it's not a good place to be. Quite a lot of eddy tracks up and down here as well, so hopefully those big bulls are still around, and maybe some of those big breeding herds. We've been having fantastic elephant viewing over the last few days. Haha. Now here's an interesting one. Let's test you guys. Get that there, will we? So, well, let's just start. There's some elephant dung there. Give you a clue, it's a bit older and quite orange. Now, closer to us, we have this green ball, and I wonder if anyone can guess what it is. And you can see there's elephant tracks around it, but that doesn't look like dung to me. I wonder if anyone can guess what that is. And if you think you do know, drop us an email on questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Who can figure out what that is? A bit of a quiz, nice and early. Make sure everyone's paying attention, not dozing while on safari. That would just be unacceptable. Very warm Safari Live welcome to Chloe Bear, who's a new viewer. Great to have you along on the game drive, Chloe. Chloe Bear would like to know, have we ever captured a lion attacking an animal on camera on the live safaris? We have. We've actually captured them chasing things quite a few times, quite often buffalo, and then I was lucky enough last year that we caught on camera with Andrew the whole lion buffalo hunt from start to finish, and they killed that buffalo on the live drives. It was an incredible sighting, and I know Scotty's caught the Karula. Were you with them there, Virm? Yeah, and Virm was with Scott last year when Karula, the female leopard that's dominant in this area, Virm and Scott managed to catch her killing a baby impala live. And let's try to think, what are the live? Last big cat, 2 years ago. The first big cat week, I think it was.
Yeah.
The Birmingham boys on the buffalo as well. And this last big cat week, male leopard Tingana catching warthog piglets, actually going in underground and pulling them out. Shadow and an impala, another female leopard. Wild dog, yes, we've had a few wild dog kills, so we do catch the animals on the prowl, so to speak, and on the hunt, and we are able to view that whole thing, which is an incredible thing. I mean, it's almost mind-blowing that we can show you lions hunting buffalo. So I'm just checking for tracks here. Lots of hyena tracks. So lots and lots of hyena tracks, but no leopard tracks. There was a hippo that died on this property to the east of us a few days ago, and I think that's where all the hyena are off to. But it is incredible to think, it's almost mind-boggling to think I'm sitting out here in the middle of the bush in the Greater Kruger National Park, and you guys could be anywhere in the world joining us on a live African safari. So for the new viewers, you'll often see that we stop and look at tracks or even just listen, and it's a very important reason why we do that. Quite often, ears will find animals for you before your eyes. So there's lots of little things we listen for, lion roaring being one of them, leopard sawing. For those of you who don't know what a leopard call sounds like, the best description is of someone sort of sawing wood with a large saw, and sort of and that's a leopard cough or saw. But the main way we find a lot of the predators, lions, leopards, cheetah, things like that, is from the alarm calls of other animals. So a lot of the other animals, when they spot a potential predator, they will start shouting, and quite often they will be saying in squirrel or impala, lion, 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 or leopard, leopard, leopard. And I'll tell you guys a little story, a very funny story about an incredible sighting I saw in Botswana that involved lions and baboons, but we'll do that a little later. So, unfortunately, no tracks yet. I know Scotty is following leopard tracks in the west of the reserve. We're right in the eastern boundary at the moment. There's been a few answers in for that little green ball of that was on the road. One is big cat scat. Unfortunately not. If you look carefully in there, guys, there's lots of grass and leaves and little branches. And another one was some type of hairball. Closer, and then a regurgitated grass eaten by a leopard. Again, not quite close, but on the right track with regurgitation. Not really regurgitated, but I'll give you guys one more chance before I let you know what it was. So Lynn and Teresa say, is it cud? No, you're a bit closer. So what that is, guys, is a bolus of the branches and leaves that has been chewed on by an elephant, and obviously it's decided it isn't as tasty as it thought, so it's chewed on to try to get some of the nutrients at least out of that. It's probably you find that the Eddies are eating a lot of bushes and trees that they wouldn't normally eat because of the very dry period we're going through. So it's chewed on that almost and then spat it out. So that's from an elephant. You can just see by the size of it and the color, it hadn't been through the digestive system. Well, Raisa, well done. You just sent through that answer. Hello, little steenbok. Little male steenbok. And very cute little guys. And one of the only monogamous animals we get out here. And also an animal that's not dependent on permanent water. They're able to get a lot of their water from the dew in the early mornings, like now. They'll also dig up bulbs and tubers. And they live in a very, very small little territory of about 2 hectares, which is just over 4 acres. And sometimes you'll see the male and female together. They're not always right next to each other. And because they live in such a small area, they bury their feces. So they'll dig a little hole and defecate and then cover it up. And that's to try mask their presence in the area to predators. They are a favorite food of leopards and wild dogs and cheetah sometimes. And if we can see how well that little camouflage works. So how they mark their territory for other steenbok is a bit different, because obviously if they're burying their feces and urine, how are they going to mark it? And when he pops out from behind that bush, I'll ask them to zoom in nice and close, just below his eyes. There we go. Oh, look at all those flies on him. So if we look carefully, the flies are actually marking it. He says a little black spot just below his eye. And that is called a preorbital gland. And what that is it secretes a substance, and obviously very easy for steenbok to smell, and they'll rub that against little trees and bushes, and that's how they mark their territory for other steenbok to know. Now those flies, I'm surprised he's moving around so calmly, are incredibly irritating, and we get bitten by them as well. They're called stable flies. They look very similar to a house fly, except they're greedy little vampire flies, and that they'll drink blood. And at the moment, there's a lot of them around, and you can get them on buffalo, impala, and you can see steenbok, also on all the predators. And they are very, very much painful. It causes our cameramen to quite often cover up completely and look like sort of ninja assassins. But while we continue to check the eastern... Oh, what did you see?
You see it running off?
It was a big warthog.
Oh,
warthog. A big warthog male ran across the road. We'll see if we can have a quick look at him. If not, we're going to head to Scott, who's got some tracks to show you. Let's have a quick look. It looks like that warthog has done a disappearing act. He was highly mobile when I spotted him running across the road. So let's go see what tracks Scotty's got.
So sadly, it appears that this leopard that we are following has crossed north over our northern boundary. She's been weaving in and out of our access road, and you can see one of her tracks, two of her tracks, 3, 4. Not easy to see though, but as Teb zooms in, you'll notice the back pad and then 1, 2, 3, 4 toes in the front where my fingers kind of curled around, and she's headed straight north down this little pathway all the way to Sydney's Dam. She may have looped around, which is interesting, and I'm going to just take this little road here because I've told Aubrey about these tracks, and Aubrey and his guests are allowed to go onto this northern property called Buffelshoek. But interestingly enough, on his way here, he's found some more leopard tracks crossing west out of Djuma. So I'm not too sure what's going on. Maybe there were 2 leopard in the area, or maybe the same leopard has just done a loop around. This is a lodge here on the right. This is our warden's house on the left. And the gate, the main entrance to the Saudi Sands, or at least the northern Saudi Sands, is just ahead of us here. So quite a lot of infrastructure, but the animals of this area have become accustomed to people to a degree, to a large degree, and don't mind slinking around, especially after dark, in and around these inhabited areas, as they don't mind moving in and around the lodge areas that are kind of on the center parts of the reserve. And I'm actually told Brent had to peek over the fence that we've just been driving along once because there was monkey's alarm calling, and he saw a leopard in the guy's garden. Now, I'm guessing we may find some more tracks coming past here. after that leopard may have finished taking a drink down at the water where it went to. Not on first inspection. Maybe I've missed them, and what I'll do is I just want to go across to where Aubrey did find some tracks. There's some of the gate guards on our right. Avshen, Nimjani. Bona Ingwe. Konkonzo Maningi. La. Kensila. So, the gate guards have no idea that there was a leopard lurking around here last night. They probably would have been fast asleep, as we all were. But I was hoping that they may have had some useful information. They often do have great feedback for us regarding animals that may have moved past this area. So here we have some more tracks on the right, and there we go, nice and crystal clear tracks heading up in that direction. You can see the toes in front again. So this leopard was lurking around this area, and it's quite interesting. Let me walk you along its path. Weaved along here, and then possibly scent marks up on this bush. Yes, it's scent marked over here, and I've got some more tracks coming down over here. Now I've got stuck. Oh well, good to just confirm that she has in fact moved off. And now I'll get a hold of the guides from Sibambili, whose property she's headed onto, and let them know that they've at least got some tracks to follow up on. Good. It's warming up quite considerably. Interesting, this leopard's been moving in and around this whole area last night. Possibly not Karula, possibly Shadow, possibly that other young female Shiluva. Well, for those of you who joined in a few days ago, I was abused for my running style by both Kirsty and I can't remember who it was. One of the viewers said I ran like a girl, but now Kirsty just very kindly gave me an 8 out of 10 for that little jog that I've just done, so I'm getting there. Thank you, Kirsty. And I got a 10 out of 10 for scent marking, so at least I know when in doubt, rather scent mark than attempt to jog. Good morning, guys. The Mafazi Ingwe has crossed into Sibambili about 20 meters north of the Vuatila signboards on Triple M. Copy that. Good luck. Okay, now they keep lurking in this kind of northwestern section of the property. There's a chance that this leopard could come back onto Nkuhuma, and that's what we're going to hope for. And if not her, we'll bump into something else, no doubt. It is an absolutely wonderful morning. Kathy in Florida, hello, and you'd like to know any updates on Karula, a female leopard, and I don't know for certain, but there are rumors that she has 3 cubs, Kathy. She is not a leopard that we see very often, though, and the only times that I've actually seen her is when she's been mating, as far as I can remember, and she's moved out of her usual territory towards Nkuhuma in search of males, and she's mated with 2 different males. And the first time I saw her, she was mating with Mvula, when Mvula got booted by Tingana, and the next time we saw her, she was actually mating with Tingana. So not too sure though on her status of her and her cubs, because we don't see her too much. Naturally, I don't have the most concern for her and her whereabouts. And now that she has cubs, I find it highly unlikely that we're going to see her for the foreseeable future. Again, she's only moved out of her territory onto other female leopards' territories, Karula's territory, Shadow's territory, in the hope that she can mate, and not only just mate, but also try and establish relationships with as many males as possible. Female leopards are incredibly clever and will mate with multiple males, knowing that if they all think that they are the father to her most current cubs, none of them are going to try and kill those cubs. Because leopards, as well as lions and a lot of different predators, will kill cubs that were not fathered by themselves. And that ensures that only the strongest genes make it through, and it's one of Mother Nature's very useful techniques to, like I said, make sure the strongest, most prominent genes are the ones that make it through. Angie, in Wisconsin, you've noticed that these tracks look very small, and you'd like to know how big they are. You're right, they are very small tracks, and they are probably only about that size, about 5 to 6 centimeters in diameter, and that's because they are female leopard tracks, and female leopards are small and have small feet. These aren't actually incredibly small. You get some female leopards with tiny feet and others with slightly larger ones, and that goes for body size as well, no different to humans. All the animals come out here in different shapes and sizes. It's just not easy for us as humans to be able to distinguish and notice these size differences, or at least not to the untrained eye. Try and work out is where these leopard tracks came from. This is the area that I first saw them in, just a little bit behind us, and it's quite useful just to know which pathways animals have taken. Even if you can't follow their trail, it can be very useful to know which paths they've used, and therefore when you track them again in a similar area, you've got a possible idea as to where they've moved. So I spotted the tracks a bit late, so I've got them again here now, walking down the right-hand side of this road. I'm not going to show you every track because it can be quite time-consuming, but just want to work out where it came from, because that may also not just help us for next time, but it may also help us work out which leopard it was. Tracks are still on the road here. Sure. I saw them very late, but in my defense, it was dark when we were driving around earlier on. Last tracks I had came from the left-hand side of the road. Who could this be? Could this be the Queen Karula, the same leopard we had yesterday morning? Could well be. And the territories fluctuate greatly. So, always useful just to make sure. Okay, well, we're going to send you across to Brent. He's found you guys a little arachnid.
So I just suddenly saw this little sort of dot on our dashboard, and it is a tiny, tiny little jumping spider. I'm just going to wait for him to turn around, and then I'm going to put my finger in there for scale. He might jump. So that's how small he is. Isn't that incredible? Tiny, tiny little guy. Making webs all over the vehicle, and there's leaps and bounds across. And we've got I don't know if you don't need to move forward a little bit. A squirrel sunning himself. But I mean, look at that. Gone. Tiny little thing. And there's a squirrel. Here he is. Catching the morning rays. Kathy, who's from sunny Florida, is wondering, do we have tarantula spiders? Oh, there's a starling as well. A Burchell's starling. Kathy, we don't. The closest thing we've got to a tarantula is called a baboon spider. They look very similar, but they're not tarantulas. Off disappears the starling. And we can, the squirrels move it on the other side of the tree. Now this is the big dead leadwood tree, and we're on Leadwood Road, and that's where it gets its name from. So leadwoods because of how dense their wood is, they can actually stay standing for up to over 100 years once they're dead. And not so much here, but in places like Botswana, it gives you a very good idea of seriously wet cycles and whatnot. So when you've got those floodplains, you quite often have really beautiful leadwood forests on the edge, and all of a sudden you have sort of a whole forest of dead leadwoods. So you can sort of tell when the last really wet cycle was, depending on the dead leadwoods. So Scotty's just calling me. Go ahead.
Brent, just to let you know, I think these are tracks of dark shadow. Like that brown ivory on the part of plains. That's where the carcass is going to be there. We're going to see these. Just to let you know.
Copy, thanks, Scotty. I'm checking Leadwood, and then probably Central back towards quarantine.
Okay, copy. I'm going to do up the cat line from Sydney just to make sure Karula hasn't come back.
Copy, thanks. Good luck. There we go. Unfortunately, those tracks Scotty was following seem to have crossed out. He's just updating me, and probably shadow just from the movement of those tracks. So, and also he's just going to double check our northern boundary to see if Karula the Queen has decided to return to grace us with her presence. So Karula's last successful litter of cubs was 2 males, Nkuhuma and Quarantine, and sometimes they come back onto Djuma in this area. So Eric in Virginia Beach has asked me to tell you a story about the most leopards I've ever seen in one spot. and it was 7 leopards, can you believe it? A proper leap of leopards. Very unusual circumstance. It was on the Sand River, probably about 7 or 8 kilometers to the south of where we are now. There was a beautiful big male leopard who was probably one of my favorite leopards of all time, by the name of the Birmingham Male. And he used to hold territory on Londolozi along the Sand River. And there was an unusual thing, that the fact that there were 5 female leopards who were in estrus all at about the same time. So they were literally all trying to mate with them at the same time, and all sort of growling, snarling, hissing. And one young male who had followed his mom and now really didn't want to be there, and he was sort of sitting in a tree going, "Oh, what am I doing?" But that was an incredible sighting. Definitely the most leopards I've seen in a single sighting. And the most leopards I've seen in a single sighting here is 3 or 4. I can't remember. I think it was 4, but we could barely see the 4th. We had Karula, Nkuhuma, Nkuhuma, and Quarantine all in one sighting. And that was actually on the road we were driving on earlier. So every now and then you do get a leap of leopards, but generally we do find them by themselves. So I promised to tell you a story about alarm calls, baboons and lions. There's a fantastic Botswana guide I worked with in northern Botswana by the name of Steve Karula, and we were watching a pride of lions move through the tree islands of the Okavango Delta, and they happened to catch a big troop of baboons, about 110, 120 strong, out in the open between. There was a big termite mound that had sort of one big African ebony on it and 2 small fever berries, and that was the only cover there. And then the rest, the next set of trees and the tree island, there's lots of cover, was probably 200 meters away. And the lions caught them on the open and charged at them. The majority of the troop managed to get to the edge of the tree island, like up. But 8 individuals only managed to get to this very small sort of secluded spot in the middle of the open area. And Steve telling the story is possibly one of the funniest things you'll ever see in your life. So he says the baboons were shouting. So the ones that were stuck in this tree were getting advice from all the ones that had made it to the safer area. And the one baboon would shout, "Lion!" And the other one would go, "Where? There! Lion!" And all shouting. And then one would say, "Jump!" The other one would say, "No, don't jump! Lion! Jump! Don't jump!" And it went on and on and on and on, till eventually one of the sort of, let me explain. So in the big ebony, there were 6 sort of females, sub-adult baboons, and in this very small bush, probably no taller than this one coming up here, this one here, so very much jumping height for a lioness, there were 2 males. So eventually one of the females in the big ebony was listening to the incorrect advice being shouted from the sideline, "Jump!" And so she jumped. Literally, as she hit the ground, the lions were on her. Whap! And in that little bush that was just that high, there were 2 big male baboons. As soon as that first baboon got grabbed, one of the big male baboons said, "Stop it! Stop it!" started shouting and drew attention to himself. And so the lioness ran up and literally hooked him out of the tree. Down, end of baboon. And over the course of the next hour, the 5 remaining baboons in the big tree all leapt and were killed by the lions. And obviously lots of shouting, "Lion, stop it! Jump! Don't jump!" And the one single big male baboon who was left in that tiny little tree, after the one got hooked out of the tree next to him, he literally just did this. Probably have an accident. He just went like this, almost grabbed the branches around him, and he just went, and he closed his eyes, and he sat there for a good, I think, an hour probably after the lions had left. That was an absolutely fantastic sighting. So we've got no tracks on Leadwood. Leadwood's often a really good road to check. It seems leopards, like a young quarantine male, like to sneak in here.
We're heading south.
Wow. So, this morning seems to be hotting up. Scotty is on fire, so let's go see what he's found.
Wow, everyone, we owe Ted a very big thank you, and you'll see why right now. Look what he's found us. Oh yes, it's a leopard, and I'm 99% certain it's Karula returning home to Juma after a little vacation to the north of us. And the reason I'm convinced it's her, it's because the leopard we were tracking earlier, as I told Brent over the radio, we assumed to be Shadow, just judging by the movements of her tracks. And that was the benefits of actually backtracking, because when I realized it was Shadow, then I thought it would be worthwhile coming here. And how lucky do you get? Not much luckier than this, I don't think. How awesome. Seb's just said calmly, leopard. I said, sorry, what? He said, no, the leopard's just there. Awesome. So we tracked one leopard and then found another without tracking it, thanks to tracking the other one that we didn't find. How bizarre. Now it is fairly thick in here. Oh, she's had a meal, it looks like. Nothing too big, but her belly is certainly larger than it was yesterday morning when we last saw her. So she's had a successful 24 hours and managed to feed on something. Who knows what? Maybe it was something small that she caught and consumed the whole animal. Or maybe it was something large that was stolen from her. Hard to say. But at least she's full-bellied and in our sights. Absolutely beautiful. I love watching them move through thick bush like this. And oh, she's just caught a baby duiker. She's just caught a duiker. Can you believe it? Let's hurry on in there. Hold on, everyone. There we go. Shame. Baby duiker, it's still alive, and she's just busy suffocating it. It won't take too long, but it does depend. So if any of you are sensitive, you may want to return in a few minutes, because this little duiker is going to struggle. You may have heard the bleat of the duiker, and that's why I knew it was the prey that she had caught. An impala's alarm calling nearby, just probably from the audio of that duiker. Whew. And this is the reality of being on a live safari. We simply do not know what is going to happen and when, and this is the last thing that I expected. But great fortune for this leopard. Let's just watch what happens now. She's looking around very cautiously, because she knows that hyena could come racing in onto the scene, and if they do, thankfully for her, because it's only a small kill, she will be able to scramble up a tree. But we do need to be ready for some quick camera work here. She's just making sure we're not interested in stealing the kill. And shame, this duiker is still not quite done yet. Monkey Man, you've just mentioned that this is your first live kill. It's my second, and I've been here over a year, so we can all consider ourselves lucky. Interestingly enough, she was the very same leopard that I have seen my one and only live kill with. She would have been able to smell that little baby duiker, or maybe the duiker could see her and just decided to run at the last moment. She took 1 or 2 pounces. I'm not sure how much you saw, but just 1 or 2 pounces and she was on top of it. And Penny, you've made a great remark, and that is that even though she was full belly, she's still gone ahead and made this kill. And that shows exactly how opportunistic they are. And well done for saying that, Penny, because I hadn't touched on that yet. And so true, just moments before we were saying that she was full bellied, but they don't know when their next opportunity is going to arise. Certainly not a piece of meal like this. She literally just got to do a hop and a skip, and she had a nice big meal. And it's going to be interesting to see where she's taking it to now. I mean, she may have a specific tree that she knows of that she's used before in this area, a nice big marula, or she may just be wanting to find some thick bush where she can stash this kill. Shame the duiker's still not dead yet. Just going to get a hold of Aubrey quickly. I think he might be interested in this sighting, and obviously it's really exciting stuff that she's got to kill. Orbs, she's just bumbled a baby Munti. We're just west of kind of Impala Road, Vuyatilla Junction. Sorry, east of there, east of Sandy Patch, rather. Yeah, it looks like she's going to probably try and stash this kill somewhere under this fallen down knobthorn tree, I'm guessing. Oh, shame. And she's going to put down this duiker, and what we may see is that she may actually play around with it a little bit. It's more often than not young leopards that will do this, but the duiker is not dead. And now it's going to regain some strength and may well try and run off. Let's try and get a bit closer. Shoot forward quickly. This is fascinating behavior because the duiker is not dead yet, and she's gone quite away from it. Now, she may have paralyzed it. She may be confident that she knows she's paralyzed it. It's just lying down on the ground there. You can see it's still breathing. And she's probably just taking a moment to catch her breath. Not uncommon, because she would have only been able to breathe through her nostrils while she was clamped down on this baby duiker. The duiker's still kicking away here. Shame, and I know this is hard, but it is nature, and this is just the way it happens out here. Certainly not easy for us as humans to watch and not feel sorry for this young duiker, of course. But we do need to remember that this is just how nature unfolds sometimes. I'm remarked by the fact that she's happy to move so far away from this kill. And I'm just going to ask Tibbs to give you an idea of where she is now. It's going to be difficult. I think she's somewhere in there, Tibbs. Yeah, there you can get a glimpse of her. And she's just laid down. Unbelievable. I'm fairly confident that she's aware that she's paralyzed this duiker. The duiker is just flailing around on the ground now. And that's what makes me think that it is in fact paralyzed. But it's hard to tell. Maybe it still doesn't have enough oxygen in its system to muster the strength to get up and run. And some things in nature simply cannot be explained. I mean, it would not be difficult for Karula to completely dispatch this duiker. It would also make more sense, because every little extra bleat that this duiker lets off is a huge signal, an invitation to any hyena or any other predators in this area. And you would have heard that little bleat that the duiker lets out again now. Yet Karula doesn't seem too concerned, and this is kind of testament to the fact that sometimes we give the animals a little bit more credit than they are due, and I feel quite strongly about that with predators. Some very exciting prospects. I've just heard through the radio waves that Ephraim has found some lion tracks that may head into Nkuhuma. And who knows, maybe there's going to be some lion on screen shortly. So exciting prospects as we watch this very difficult sighting, but very, very good prospects for a big cat morning. Kevin, thank you for bringing up this topic of what the baby duiker was up to. You mentioned that it must have been lying, hiding in wait, and you're spot on. That is what duiker will do. A lot of you may also be wondering where its parents were, and the parents will head off in search of food and leave the youngsters hidden. And because they are so small and can camouflage so well, as long as they lie in wait and don't actually move, their presence will be difficult to detect. And I'm just going to creep forward a little bit, and I think that was the fatal mistake that this young duiker did make, was that it did actually move and give away its presence to Karula. And that's why she just took a hop and a skip to pounce on it. And I've actually got a video on my Scott Dyson Safari's Facebook page of when some friends came to stay with me, Dave and Alan on safari, and in that video you can see a young baby duiker that we found, and it lay in wait. It knew we were there, and I had my GoPro within 6 inches of it, and it still kept dead still, hoping and knowing that keeping still is their best option when anything dangerous does pass by. Well, I'm confident now that we can assume that this poor duiker does have a broken neck. And Lisa in Wisconsin, you've just touched on that, so you're right. And like I said, very, very difficult. But we need to remember that it's not our place to interfere, and that this is simply the way Mother Nature had it planned out. What I'm thinking of doing is maybe trying to get some views of Karula. I'm not sure how much longer I can watch this poor little duiker flailing around on the ground here. So let's see if we can't get you a view. The Queen of Nkuhuma. and Lisa Osborne, you have been following these live safaris for quite some time and remember watching a similar sighting with Peter Pretorius, although the leopard was playing with the bird and you remarked that it wasn't much fun. And I hear you, it's never nice seeing animals suffer, even when it is just nature taking its course. Best possible spot. I think it's just about here. And look at her panting with that full belly. And that's why she's sadly for this duiker in no rush to dispatch it and or start feeding on it. She definitely knows it's still alive, because with her incredible hearing, she'll be hearing every little movement and rustle that it makes. Crested barbets and parrots calling around us. And if we had just arrived here now, you would almost assume that absolutely nothing has happened. And we wouldn't assume that there's a poor baby duiker struggling nearby as the leopard nonchalantly grooms itself. Hello to Hannah, and you ask if I have ever interfered. Hannah, never in a situation where it has not been necessary to, and therefore the only times that I have been involved in any kind of interference has been when the results of the injury to the animal has been caused by that of man, or if the animal is endangered. So you typically just have to hold back and keep watching. In this case, Hannah, there's nothing we could do. That young duiker is paralyzed, and it would be completely wrong to, even if we did have the potential to help, we would be interfering massively with Mother Nature's plans. And who knows what her plans are for this duiker. Now, you're not going to believe where you're about to be taken to, and I guess I'm just going to leave you to stew with that thought on your trip across. Enjoy.
Might be somewhere around.
Guys, look at this. Lions, finally. It's the first time we've seen lions since the 24th of December. And it looks to be 3 lionesses of the Nkuhuma pride. And can you believe we were sitting with that herd of buffalo for half an hour this morning, and we left them, and the Nkuhumas came and caught one. So our timing was a bit off, but luckily here you can see it's a young sub-adult buffalo. They've been making short work of it. Isn't that great? Lion and leopard on the same drive. And both animals have got kills this morning. Isn't that wonderful? And I know a lot of you guys really excited to see the Nkuhuma pride. I know it's a big favorite of a lot of the viewers, and I don't think this is the first time I've seen it in probably 2 months. Yeah, you? More. Yeah. So obviously not the full pride here at the moment, only just 3 lionesses. So happy kitties all abound on Nkuhuma Private Game Reserve this morning. Oh, there's a male here as well, right at the back. We'll go have a look just now. I did think Ephraim saw them with a Birmingham male yesterday.
Where you see the male?
Behind the little ledwood. So you got him there.
I think he's obscure from my position.
Now if you zoom in and slightly to the right. There, zoom in there. Zoom. And up a little bit. There's his belly there. You see him heavily panting. And you'll probably find he ate the majority of this baby buffalo. Look at this beautiful light. Lovely early morning light. If you guys hear a few clicks, don't worry, it's just me and my camera. And don't forget to take screenshots and share them on our Facebook page, Safari Live, or pop them up onto Twitter with the hashtag Safari Live. Is being a comedian this morning and making a play on a terrible song from the 90s and says, "Who let the lions out?" And James Richard is saying the lion drought has ended, and that it has, finally. We were joking around in camp last night, Scott and myself, and we forgot what lions look like. We decided they were cat-like animals, but we weren't 100% sure. Now this morning I can definitely say they are cat-like animals, and going one step further, they are cats. And you see how she's getting right into the joint there. Using her premolars and molars. So unlike our molars and premolars that are quite flattened, lions are sharpened, and the premolars are often used as cutting teeth. And you imagine a very strong set of side cutters or pliers, but with a more jagged edge, being utilized to often cut open the skin of animals and also get pieces of meat off. There we go, see how she turns her head to the side, and those big white teeth, the canines, those are used more for the killing. So Brenda in Virginia has noticed that the lioness is missing an upper right canine. Brenda, lions break their teeth quite regularly, and it's not unusual to see a lion missing a canine or two. Lovely soft light. Well, we'll come back to these girls in a minute or two. Let's go see which male that is. Morning, madam. Natasha would like to know if it could be junior. I would say it's very unlikely to be junior. I would say it's more likely to be one of the Birmingham boys. And hopefully, after this incredible amount of instability with all the lions, with the new takeover of the males, the Matimbas moving out and the Birmingham boys moving in, that we could be looking forward now to a sort of an era of a little bit more stability. And I know a lot of you are going to be wondering, are we going to get cubs soon? I don't think so. We're probably only going to be getting cubs if the Nkuhumas have started mating with Birminghams over the last sort of 3 months, add another 3 months, so at earliest probably end of June, maybe even as late as October, we might be seeing first cubs from the Nkuhumas. So what lionesses do when new males come into an area is that they will come into what is a false estrus, and they will do that to ensure that the males, oh look at that, isn't that perfect timing? And I think that definitely looks like one of the Birmingham boys. You can see he's definitely been feeding. You can see the buffalo blood on his face and that fat belly. So he definitely ate the majority of what that little buffalo. There's that big belly. Hello, big man. Nice to have you visiting. So, as I was saying, so females come to a false estrus. So they will mate with the new males, but it's very seldom that will actually end in cubs. And the reason they do this is they don't want these males to now be kicked out in sort of a very short time, 2-3 months again. Oh, boof, back to sleep. So there we go, one of the Birmingham boys with a big belly. Finish up on those lion estrus. So they'll go into that false estrus, the males will mate with them, but they won't produce any cubs, and that's in case that these lions get ousted very quickly. So only in that second estrus cycle, once the new males have become established, will they actually start producing cubs. And Kobe, who's our new viewer, asking another question today, says, what is a lion's favorite part? Is it the bones? Is it the meat? Well, generally, Kobe, it is, they'll go for certain of the internal organs first, specifically the liver, the heart, lungs, very high in iron and other nutrients. The amber, yes, it is amber eyes. It looks like the one with their back to us here.
Well, Brent's just lost signal, but that's not a problem because we are in such luck today. Finally, some lions, and not just any old lions, the Nkuhuma pride, one of the Birmingham boys, and a kill. So fascinating stuff. Karula's getting very comfortable here, as you can see. And other than the odd little noise that she is hearing every now and then, which gets her head up, she's been snoozing. The baby duiker is still alive. It's not bleating as much as it was before. It's gone silent. And it leads me to a good point that I hadn't thought of earlier, and I believe was raised by Paul. And Paul and myself are both wondering, has she not specifically left this duiker alive with the knowledge that by its bleats that it lets out, it could well call its parents back into the area, allowing Karula another opportunity to make an easy kill? And I've never seen this happen before, but it certainly is possible, and I think it's what this old experienced female has done. She knows from experience that the bleat of a baby duiker will often cause its parents to return. And leopards aren't the only animals to do this. There's various tribes that hunt in jungles in Africa and abroad that will do similar things, and they'll even simulate the bleat of an antelope, knowing that it will attract possibly not even parents, but even other antelope in the area who are simply curious to know what has happened to a certain area. So I think that's the science behind her cruel yet effective technique of luring in even more easy meals.
So
news is that Brent has regained signal and the lions are busy taking a snack.
Sorry about that. Seems like a gremlin decided to visit us. But we're still with 3 members of the Nkuhuma Pride. And Lucy was asking about Amber Eyes, and Amber Eyes is the lion on the head at the moment. Looking at, there we go. There's Amber Eyes. And it looks like this lion is probably going to go look for a bit of shade. So Margaret in Kansas is wondering whether this is from the herd this morning. Well, Margaret, what happened, it is from the herd this morning. We were sitting with the herd, and after we left them, the lions came through. So at least my ears weren't lying, we were in the right spot. Oh, tired kitty. Happy kitty, full belly. Time for a snooze. Isn't this stunning? Scott says, everyone phone your friends quickly, we've got lions again. So the drought is over. Hopefully they hang around for a little bit. The one major problem from where we are now is that the closest water is back across our eastern boundary. So it'll be very interesting to see if they decide to head further into Nkuhuma, or they do head back north or back east. So the closest water from where we are now is the Nkuhuma waterhole, and that is quite far. Sorry guys, just gotta turn the radio up a little bit. Ephraim's left, so we're the only one there, so we need to, if someone wants to come here, we've got to let them know what's going on. So lions are not dependent on water, but they quite often like to drink water after they've finished a carcass. They'll often go for a drink after they've finished a big meal. They actually need to, they can get enough blood.
Shame, apologies for the shaky signal on Brent's vehicle, but I'm enjoying you guys popping back in for a visit and a check-in on Karula every now and then, so it's not a huge problem. As you came across to us, Karula poked up ahead again. It's been predominantly flat on the ground, and we can show you the little duiker. It's still in the same place. I know a lot of you have been phoning your friends and spreading the word about the huge luck that we're having on Safari Live this morning. So thank you for that, and good idea from Brent. The dike is straight in the middle there, Tebs. If you just zoom straight in, there we go. Not easy to see, it's kind of below that main green branch. So it is still in there, still alive sadly in there. You can see it struggling. And let's hope that it doesn't struggle for too much longer before Karula decides to put it out of its misery. But judging from her behavior, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. As I said, she's been predominantly head on the ground until she hears a strange noise. But she's probably hoping to be the duiker's parents in search of it. But she will again be cautious. She'll know that these noises may have attracted animals, and even her scent trail will attract hyena that are passing through the area, that will come in and just see that there's not an easy meal lying around, which in this case there is. So if a hyena does arrive, we are certain to get some good action. You may have heard a loud kind of drone temporarily there, and there was a massive wasp called a spider hunting wasp flying around us. They've got what sounds to be a diesel engine, and they are incredibly powerful, hence that loud drone that you hear. And the reason they need to be powerful is that they hunt large spiders, essentially African tarantulas. We call them baboon spiders here, but they are part of the tarantula family. So that's what you may have heard there. Julia Smith in Houston has noticed that Karula's nipples are protruding, and she's wondering whether that's always been the case or whether that is a sign that she could be pregnant. Now, old female like this is approaching 12 years of age. I'm told she turns 12 in, I think, March, or there and thereabouts. But an old female like this will have very prominent nipples, as would a lioness. And I'm not going to continue this. I'll let Brent finish this question off. Or I'll finish it off later. We need to get you across to the lions.
So the males just got up and walked to a different piece of shade, a little bit closer. So quite fortunately, we can now have visual of both without having to move the vehicle. Unfortunately, we're not sure why we're having these gremlins invading us at the moment. VM thinks we might have managed to create some magic to stop it. Oh, time to go to sleep. Ladies are still feeding, or two of them at least. And they do love a buffalo, lions. Especially since it's very, very dry. We haven't. The buffalo are moving huge distance between food and water during these very dry times. And obviously puts a little bit of strain on them. So you do find during the winter season, our dry season, and now that we're in a bit of a drought, or we're in a big drought at the moment, the lions are killing a lot more buffalo. So I'm not exactly sure which Birmingham boy that is. Natasha was wondering. I don't think it's Scrapper or Tsotsi, as he's also known. And so there's an old scar on the back of that lioness. So it could be from fighting for food. So when we had a look at that male, Nigel, Jen B and Jen were admiring his battle scars. That's a sort of a sign of a proper male lion. all those scars. If you look at zoo lions and captive bred lions, they lack that character that a wild lion has. And he's got to fight for his spot in the sun. And the life of a male lion, or life of a lion in general, is a very violent one. But they've got incredible capacity to heal, and what we would often consider to be a massive injury is just a couple of weeks of limping and stiffness for a lion. So Kay and Nigel are wondering whether this kill will attract other animals like hyenas. It might attract some vultures because it is out in the open as it gets warmer and the vultures start moving. But it's unlikely to attract hyenas. They might come in and have a look, so it will attract them. But if they get a glimpse of a male lion anywhere near it, that's it. They will move away. So a group of hyenas will happily harass a group of lionesses, but as soon as you add a male lion into the equivalent, the hyenas know they are outgunned severely. Certain male lions that I've seen in my travels around Africa, particularly one up in northern Botswana, for some reason actually just absolutely hated hyenas and would often, the one morning I think we found 6 dead hyenas. He basically stalked and killed them all the way down the road. And where we went, there was just another dead hyena, another dead hyena. When it comes to the predators, the male lion is by far the top of the food chain. These guys probably weigh around 190 kilograms. A very big male lion can weigh up to 230 to 250 kilograms. And the largest wild male lion ever recorded was from Namibia, which was just under 300 kilos. Absolute beast. I'm going to try to remember the maths now. So if I remember, 90 kilograms is about 100 pounds. So we're looking, these guys are probably 200, 220 pounds. Is that right? 180 kilos. 220 pounds?
Close to 400.
Close to 400 pounds. Sorry, Viam. Maths is not my strong point. Fortunately, looking for lions is. Although a big thank you to Ephraim for finding for us this morning. So what happened is we left that buffalo herd. And there's the amber eyes heading towards the male. I wonder if they've been mating.
Morning, Abel. You can see that golden dog.
So let's go have a look. There might be some nice contact, rubbing of faces between them. So get ready with your screenshots. I've got my camera out and ready as well. There we go. Look at that. She's going to mate. Now that often happens at the beginning of mating. That's amber eyes. Look at that, wasn't that incredible? So I was wondering if he was hanging around because one of the females was an estrus, or a false estrus. And a cat's penis is barbed, so it can actually be quite painful. And when they mate, and that's why often male lions and male leopards will bite the nape of a female's neck. Isn't this incredible? She's coming right next to us. I mean, there we go. She's urinating right next to us. That should bring him in. We might get ready for this. Oh, he's going to chase them. Well, maybe it is Clapper. He's got a very... No, it's not. I don't think so. Vim, what do you think?
I don't know.
Unfortunately, I haven't spent enough time with the Birminghams to know them that well, but he's got a very fresh scar across his right eye. He's so full, he probably can't eat anymore. But he's chased them off just to make sure they know who's boss. So Lucy in Columbus is wondering, is this not possibly the 3 Sticks lionesses that were with some Birmingham boys to the east of us yesterday? Lucy, at the same time, these lions were found. There were 4 lionesses not far from here yesterday with another Birmingham boy. So I'm pretty sure this is the Nkuhumas, and that one female very much looks like Amber Eyes. He's probably going to move this carcass into the shade now as it gets a bit warmer. So those 2 different lion sightings were running simultaneously. So, and Cheetah Plains is quite a long way from where we're here, although where they found the Nkuhumas with this Birmingham yesterday, much, much closer. Probably no more than 3 kilometers from here. So I'm very happy my predictions seem to have come true. Taking it off to the shade. He's going to drag it a little bit further into the shade there. So, Brenda in Virginia is wondering how many lionesses are now on the Nkuhuma Pride. I think there's 4, possibly 5. I'm not 100% sure. As I said, I haven't seen them in months. And I think more than likely there's 4 adults. I'm not sure if one of those sub-adult females has survived. Look at that. And he's gonna try stuff his face some more. They have a very, very fast digestive system, so they are able to munch through mountains of meat. And Brenda's also wondering, when was the last time Junior was seen? Brenda, I cannot answer you that. I haven't seen him in months. And with the Birminghams being spread out over the vast area they are, it's very unlikely that Junior will be around. If he probably hung around too long, it's very possible that the Birmingham boys would have killed him. Matthew in Los Angeles is wondering if we can tell by the mane color how old this lion is. Matthew, this lion's just over 5 years old, so coming into his prime. And you can see all the Birmingham boys, their manes have darkened since we first started seeing them and got bigger. But you do get male lions that retain a relatively blonde mane. So color of the mane isn't the best indicator of age. And sometimes size isn't either. But we know these guys are probably just over 5 years old. And that very distinct scar over his right eye is going to be a very nice identifying indicator for this lion in particular. I don't think it's Scrapper. He always looks like, or Tsotsi. He always looks like he's got a black eye. With a nice scar like that, I'm almost tempted to call him Scar. What about you, Vim?
Still fits the...
Does fit? Or Scarface rather than Scar. I think Scarface is better than Scar. Scar was the sneaky lion from the Lion King.
He is a bit of a gangster. So
Scarface. Now the Birminghams are like gangsters. Scarface is probably better. LiveSafari would like to know what is the male-female lion ratio in the area. So at the moment, because there's been a pride takeover by these Birmingham boys, so there's 5 male lions, and at the moment, as far as I know, they have sort of mating rights with 2 different prides, the Styx pride and the Nkuhuma pride. I'm not sure about the Talamati pride. They seem to still be with the Salati males, and that's further to the north of us. So I think, as far as I know, there's 4 lionesses, or 5 lionesses possibly still left alive from the Nkuhuma pride, and I think there's probably 4 or 5 Styx lionesses. They're not often together anymore, but seen in 2s and 3s. So we're probably looking at 2 to 1 actually, lioness to male lion, because obviously when they've come in, they've killed all the cubs. They've actually killed quite a few females as well, and that actually often happens during male lion takeovers, where they'll try to defend their cubs or territory from the new males. These new males are now pretty much set, and they are dominant males over the vast majority of the northern Sabi sands. So a coalition of 5 males, and there's probably 10, maybe 15 females in the area. 10 for sure, maybe a few more. There we go. Kevin, Anna Marie, and quite a few others say Scrapper or Tsotsi's damaged eye is his left eye, and this male has it on his right eye. So I think Scarface is a good one for him, because I think that will make quite a nice scar. So Blair Sinclair says this male was in a fight with one of his brothers in Mala Mala a few days ago. Now, that is very possible, and it's quite a nice fresh wound. Probably either fighting over food, more than likely fighting over mating rights. So even though there are coalition members, they will battle each other for mating with females. So there is dominance amongst the coalition, even though all of the males will eventually probably mate with all the females. And since that little bit of behavior we saw between him and one of the lionesses, probably means he won. And he's getting to do the mating first. And we must always be careful to refer to lion coalitions as brothers. It's often a very big misconception that male lion coalitions are related, as in direct brothers. Quite often there will be unrelated males that have joined, maybe 2 that are related, and another 2 or 3 that are related. So you will have unrelated members in a coalition. And also, it's a very, very easy presumption to make, but often a very incorrect presumption, that the dominant male lions in the area are the fathers of all the cubs you see. So in a lot of areas in Africa, the new research that's coming through, about 50% of cubs born to the prides are not to the dominant males of the area. There are male lions quite often. So old Junior, if he is alive and he's managed to get out of here, and he doesn't find another young male or a couple of other young males to join up with, he might adopt a different strategy, and certain male lions do this. They're almost permanently nomadic, and they sneak around the peripheries and will mate regularly with females. And so you have, and that also helps with genetic diversity. So often single male lions that aren't in big coalitions will become sort of sneaky maters and sneak around the edges, mating with females. And so quite often, as I said, 50% of the cubs in a pride are not the offspring of the dominant males. So while we sit here to see what plays out, I'm hoping once he's finished munching a little bit, he might meander over to the ladies looking for some loving. But till then, let's go see Scotty, who's still with Karula.
Well, who would have thought it would have got much better until the Birmingham Male and that Nkuhuma lioness attempted to do some mating, and let's hope that there's a little bit more of that before the end of the safari, as Brent says. Now, Karula has repositioned ever so slightly. Basically, her head was where her back feet are positioned now, basically, and she's just on a bit of a 180. Sadly, we've had to reposition the vehicle. Well, maybe it's not sadly, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, and we cannot see the duiker that is still alive, still struggling nearby, and clearly she has got no intentions of changing that for the time being. And it really is going to be interesting to see if she makes another move before the end of the sunrise safari. I'm not too sure what to think. Now, apologies, Julia. I only just got started answering your question before we had to race you across to that action with the lions. And just to remind everyone, she just picked up what it's called the duiker big pick, and that's why she's looking back in that direction. Now, for those of you who have just joined, Julia earlier asked, is it normal for Karula's nipples to be so prominently showing, or is it a sign of her pregnancy? And Julia, for an animal of this age, approaching 12, having given birth to many litters, it is not abnormal for their nipples to be prominent and easy to see. It's just when the angle is right, you get to see them more often. And I guess the fact that she's full-bellied will be helping to pronounce the fact that those nipples are in fact there, whereas if she was empty stomach, they would not be protruding as much. And again, it also complicates things because she's old. She's got this little bit of a flabby belly, extra tube on that back half of her stomach, and that looks similar to a young leopard who would be pregnant. So difficult to tell if she is carrying, at least it is difficult at this stage. The best sign to see that a leopard has in fact given birth, Julia, is when you can see the nursing ring. So when you look at those nipples, you can see a very distinctive suckle mark around them. And that's a sure indicator that a female's actually got cubs. Pregnancy and the prior stages can be quite tricky though, again, especially with an older female. Come on, Karula. Okay, we're going to send you back to the lions. There's more action there.
So, shame, one lioness has come and picked up a little scrap from where they were feeding earlier. I was hoping she might go try feed with the male, but I don't think that's in her best interest. He might get a bit aggressive with her.
Morning, go ahead. Oh, yeah, no, that wasn't you, that called. Oh, there's Karula on top of it. Okay.
So she's just chewing on that, and there he is on the other side.
So, yeah, just have the final control attempt to it, and it's over your transmission. Did you go again?
So here we go, look at him. He's on the skin, and the other lionesses are lying down in the shade. Sorry guys, just need to be on the radio. Dave Afirm, the road off Buffelshoek, that runs from Buffelshoek cut line to the eastern side of Buffelshoek Dam, probably about 300 meters from the cut line itself, and you'll get our visual to the south of the road. Sorry about that, just letting the other guys know exactly where we are. So there's not too much meat left on this guy here. You can see the rib cage. So Safari says this is the second time watching the safaris, and can you believe it, on her second drive, Karula with a duiker kill and the Nkuhumas and a Birmingham male munching on what's left of a buffalo. You're very lucky. Safari would like to know why the lions don't attack us. They attack elephants sometimes that are much bigger than the vehicle. Well, Safari, it's a little bit of a longer discussion. I'll deal with the lions and elephants first. A lot of animal behavior is area specific, not species specific. So you probably would not find these lions ever going after elephants. I've never heard of lions attacking sort of teenage elephant in the Sabi Sands. They focus a lot more on buffalo, zebra, wildebeest, kudu. And the lions that are famous for hunting elephants are in Botswana, particularly along the Chobe, Kwondo, and the Nyanti areas, and also the Savuti. Now, there's a very important reason for this, that when the Savuti marsh dried up, the majority of the buffalo, zebra, and wildebeest moved away from that area, leaving only a lot of elephants in that area. So to adapt, that pride had to start hunting elephants. So obviously they can't move off too far, because if they did, they would move into another lion's territory. So because the elephants were the most predominant animal in their territory, and there wasn't a lot of other food around, they learned how to hunt elephants. So, and another good example of animal behavior being area specific rather than species specific is that the lions in the heart of the Okavango Delta will swim across deep channels and for 100 meters often at a time, whereas you probably couldn't get these lions to put their toe in a very small river. And it's obviously just the nature of the area that different animals occur in. But why they don't attack us in the vehicle? So if you think about it, a vehicle doesn't smell very nice. It smells of petrol and oil and brake fluid and grease. And to a lion, that isn't very, very appetizing. Also, vehicles have only been around for just over 100 years. And animals do not have an instinctive response to them. It is not something that is sort of in their DNA. Now, for an example, if I had to stand up in the vehicle, or Veerm had to stand up behind the camera, we would get a very different response from the lions. Now, the bipedal figure of man, so that upright, two-legged creature, has been the dominant diurnal predator on the African savannas for 200,000 years in current form. And before that, there have been other hominids and large apes that would have been the dominant daytime predators that would have been competing for lions. And we've evolved to be far more active, or be active during the day. And we're one of the only animals that is capable of operating in 100-degree Fahrenheit weather, 40 degrees Celsius. We can walk. We've got a very, very complex sweat system that helps us cool down, and so we don't overheat. Lions don't have that. If their core body temperature raises by a couple of degrees, they'll actually die. So they are very, very stationary during the heats of the day, while we are very mobile. And we both evolved like that to avoid confrontation. So very simply, a group of lions, a single man is an easy target for a group of lions, and vice versa, a group of men can easily kill a single lion. And basically, that's why lions also have developed into a social cat. They're the only social cat, and it's from being in direct competition with humans, who are a big social animal. So there's that reason when it gets dark at night that we want to go home. And that's basically from when we lived out in the African savannas. We wanted to get safe away from the lions. And if we happen to walk up to lions during the day, and 99% of the time they will run away. And that is their defense mechanism of dealing with us. So very, very interesting. But now, so as I was saying, if we stood up in the vehicle, probably from here, and it's getting a bit hot, the lions would probably drop down, start growling, and maybe even run away. If we had to walk in here, I'm 100% certain that they would run away from us. So very interesting. At night, a different story. They will eat you. They are the dominant nocturnal predator. We are the dominant diurnal predator. So we've got our little niches that we fill out here. And also now, a car only being just over 100 years old, there isn't that instinctive response. There isn't that hundreds of thousands of years of ingrained knowledge. And so if you drive carefully and considerately, and you don't pressurize the animals, they become very used to the vehicles and sort of just treat them as a thing that's there, that's not to eat, it's just there. As you can see, they carry on with completely natural behavior, ignoring the vehicles while we're here. So Kush on YouTube's wondering, you see lions on kills and leopards, and they quite often lick the animal before starting to feed. There's a couple of different reasons. A lion's tongue is like sandpaper. I mean, if they had to lick us on our soft human skin in one spot, they would actually take the skin off. So what they're doing there is quite often they're just licking some of their hair out of the way before they start feeding. Unfortunately for them, they do swallow a lot of hair. The hair is keratin, and same as fingernails, and they're unable to digest that. So often they'll cough that up in hairballs. So on this animal, the stuff that a lion can't digest is the hair, the hooves, and the horns, which are all made up of the same substance. So a young buffalo like this, the lions will break up quite a few of the bones, but still some of the bigger leg bones will be too thick for them, and also probably some of the vertebrae. They will chew the edges off the vertebrae, the sort of wings that the muscles are attached to. There we go, he's doing that right now. You heard that crunch. There we go, you see he's using his molars and premolars to crunch and cut. Oh, he's got a bit of sinew stuck there. I must imagine lions, if they had the option, would need a lot of toothpicks. So Sharon in Pittsburgh has noticed that this lion's mane extends below the neck down to sort of his chest area, and she'd like to know how far can they extend. Again, that depends on the individual lions. Lioness is up again, and she hasn't got as much food as the other two lionesses. We see their bellies are much more full. She might try sneak in, and we could get a little bit of action if she does. But sorry, Sharon. So that some lions' manes will extend all the way to their back legs even, but like there was that hairy-bellied Matimba. So the evolutionary reason for a lion's mane is protection. When they fight, obviously it protects the vulnerable areas around their neck. No, she's deciding discretion is the better part of valor. Wait for him to decide he's finished eating what he's got, and then she'll probably move in. So she looks like she might come look for a few more scraps around the kill site. There is a bit of meat right here next to us for him. Maybe she'll find that. It looks like. So that looks like where they caught it, right there, and started feeding, which is right next to the vehicle. We'll show you now. There we go, and you can still see there's a little bit of scrap meat. No, she's heading back towards the other ladies. So, oh, look at that. Some little face nuzzling. And very important with your social cats to do that and reaffirm the bonds between the different pride members, because often when they're feeding they forget their manners and beat each other up. Pam Shirley is wondering, will the lions eat the buffalo's hide, or will they leave it for other scavengers? Pam, it all depends on how hungry they are. Sometimes they will eat the hide completely, other times they'll leave it. Young buffalo like this, I think they might eat the hide. Now, I wonder where she's off to. There's one lioness walking off, and he's noticed, he looked like he might follow for a second, but not. I think she's probably just going to move a little bit down there, find a bit of deeper shade to have a snooze in. So this carcass is in an open seep line clearing, so they will move off to where there's a bit better shade, now that they've got some full bellies. So we're going to sit here, see what happens with the lions, and while we do that, let's go back to Scotty, who's still with Karula.
So, still some very tough images to process here. The duiker is in frame, it's keeping still at the moment, but it has been struggling quite a bit over the last few minutes. And imagine what a desperate situation that must be. Paralyzed, knowing that you've been caught, completely powerless. And I'm sure the initial shock is, or has worn out. So a terrible situation for that young duiker. Not too sure how young it is exactly, and that right there is a good sign, because a yawn is an indication that this leopard may be trying to increase the oxygen levels in its body just before it becomes active. And let's hope it's deciding to go and dispatch this baby duiker and put it out of its misery once and for all. Very good question that's just come through from Sean, who's watching in Canada. And Sean is interested to know what are the possibilities of this duiker having been injured before Karula arrived, and possibly by a snake bite, who knows. And Paul, it is possible, but I think it's highly, highly unlikely. And I'm fairly certain, the way we saw her pouncing, that she did need to in fact chase after the prey and then catch it. But then Sean would like to know, on top of that, what is the likelihood of a leopard scavenging? And very, very high. All the predators, Sean, will scavenge, and leopard are no different. Leopard will steal from one another. They'll steal from smaller predators. They'll even steal from a snake. They'll even feed on snakes. I've seen snakes with python kills. An African rock python can be huge, and I've seen 4 or 5 meter pythons draped over branches of marula trees that have been killed and hoisted up there by leopards. So most certainly. And I must emphasize, Sean, that all predators will scavenge, not just the hyena. Lion will scavenge probably more than any of the others, because they are the top of the food chain, and they can bully leopard, they can bully hyena in certain situations, they can definitely bully cheetah and wild dog. And come on, Karula, it's time that you go and put this duiker out of its misery. Come on, let's hope that she goes there. I'm guessing she's going to. I don't think she would need to reposition. She's in the shade, and the only reason she would be moving is to go, and I'm hoping, start feeding on that duiker. Come on, Karula. Now again, it may make for some difficult images. She is heading straight towards it, and there is a strong chance that this duiker will let off a few more bleats as it sees the leopard approaching, or as the leopard latches onto it. So be warned, this could be quite a sensitive viewing. I know we don't have the best view, but I don't want to reposition the vehicle now. Wow, that is not the result I was hoping for, nor is it the result that duiker was hoping for. And I can't see exactly what's going on now. Let me see if I think now would be a good time to reposition. Try and work out what Karula's up to. We're going to send you back to the lions quickly.
So welcome back. We're still with this beautiful Birmingham boy, and with those wonderful scars on his face, lets you know he's a proper male lion, not just a poser. He gets stuck in, and there's a lioness who's trying to sneak closer. It's the hungry lioness. She's having a bit of a stretch against the tree there, cleaning her nails. There we go. She's definitely the most hungry of the three lionesses, so she's trying to get in there. And male lions can be very, very selfish when it comes to feeding. So many years ago, I was guiding in Botswana, and our first sort of drive out, we drove out and we found a big pride of lions on a zebra carcass, and we found them quite late in the morning in the morning safari, and the male lion was pretty much exactly like this. He was eating the carcass and the lionesses were lying off to the side, and as it got hotter and hotter, the male lion then picked up on probably half a zebra, and he started dragging it towards where the lionesses was lying in the shade. And before I could explain what was going on, I had a guest from America, and she said, "Oh my goodness, look how sweet. He's taking the meat to his wives." He got about 4 meters from the lionesses. He dropped the meat, he ran and charged, beat up 3 of the lionesses, and then went back and took the meat and dragged it back into the shade. So he wasn't taking it to them. All he wanted was his shade. So you can see the lioness is up and down moving, and just trying to watch him to see if it looks like he's going to have a snooze and stop feeding. Debbie would like to know, do we keep a log to identify the different individual lions and leopards? We keep a log for Panthera Research Organization that we update every day, so they can maintain a sort of idea about the lions and the leopards in the area. For most of the lions and leopards that we see regularly, we will know 90% of the time who they are because of where their territories are, and we do spend a lot of time in this area, so it's a bit easier for us. Here we go, he's left the carcass. I think he's going to go try and mate with that female again, the same one who gave him a good hiding a bit earlier. He's looking for the ladies, and you'll probably find that hungry lioness will probably try to sneak in if he lies down here or moves further towards the ladies. We're just going to try and make sure we're in the right position. See immediately that other lioness on her way straight to the carcass. Here come the lionesses. Let's just get a little bit wider so we can see what's going on here. position. That one looks like she's coming into mate. You can see her flirting. That's lioness flirting. There we go. Lioness flirting. Oh, and he's not too interested. It looks like he's rather looking for a piece of shade. And the girls are moving in towards the carcass. And he's going to go flop down. He's disappeared into some thick shade. See, they're checking, making sure he doesn't change his mind and come back and chase them before they start feeding. So they're watching him. He's actually moved now. He's parallel to them. There he is. Making sure he doesn't change his mind and come back in and chase them. Looks like they're going to start feeding, so let's move back up a little bit. How's that, Jim? That'll do. So wonderful to be having Nkuhuma Pride back on the property. As I said, we haven't seen them in months, and this is the first lions we've seen since the 24th of December. So exciting times, back with the big cats. So a question from Macy, you would like to know, do lioness roar, or is it only the males? No, both sexes roar, and the females will roar to protect their territory from other females, like the males. So, but interesting enough, males can often dominate over more than one pride. So even though they have the same sort of dominant males, the lionesses will defend their individual territories against the lionesses. And that Birmingham's sort of just disappearing now. I didn't expect him to walk that far with a belly that size. Oh, we just lost sight of him. He just disappeared quite far into the bush there. Hopefully he doesn't move off too far. And he'll be around for the sunset safari. And the third lioness, who seems to have got the best deal out of the buffalo by the size of her belly, is heading in. So Carl, who's a South African who is living in New York, is watching Safari Live and the lions with some American friends, and they would like to know, how many flies do lions eat in a meal? Well, probably not too many. The flies tend to get out of the way. On bigger buffalo carcasses, I suppose you could say they do eat flies, but it would be the maggots, the fly larvae that they would be feasting on. And lions and leopards are not adverse to eating completely rotten meat, and something that's been possibly sitting in the sun for weeks. Probably not weeks in the heat we have out here, but definitely days. So there's going to be very little left of this buffalo by the end of today, if anything at all. in Washington would like to know, do they eat anything that cleans their teeth? Well, they'll just the general use of how they use their teeth. Munching and crunching on bones does a lot of the cleaning for them. So they don't feed on any particular plant or anything like that that's going to help them clean their teeth. Anne-Marie says these lions don't seem to be arguing over food that much. It's probably because the two of the lionesses and the male have done quite a lot of the eating, and it's only the one lioness really who didn't get as much of the food, so that's probably why they're not arguing. The other two aren't as hungry. So, Jennifer in Missouri would like to know, is the lioness who's not eating just looking out for the one that is? No, Jennifer. Being a social animal, they quite like to be close to each other, but she's not watching out for the one who is eating. So Carol in Florida would like to know why lionesses stay with a male if he treats them so badly. Carol, you must realize that these are wild animals and we can't humanize them. And that male lion, even though what we perceive as bad treatment, dominates and patrols an area around here to keep other males lions out. And basically, if you're a wild animal, and for quite a lot of the people in the world, you have a very few main objectives, and that's to keep well fed and to procreate. And so the lionesses are unable to do the second option without the male. And oh my goodness, we're going to cross across to Scotty, who's got possibly one of the strangest sightings we've ever had on Safari Live.
Now, this is a first for me, and I know it's not easy to see at the moment, but there's two chameleons mating. Can you believe it? And big thanks to Ephraim, who miraculously spotted them as they bobbled from side to side in this bush willow tree. It's just a tangle of chameleon at the moment, but hopefully, if we're just a little bit patient, we'll get a few better views. Oh, there you go. Well done, Tebs. Found what looks to be the lady. The female is bigger than the males, and that's generally the case with chameleons. And this is the flap-necked chameleon. It's the only chameleon that we get in this area, so impossible to confuse with anything else. And it looks like the female is actually trying to get rid of the male, so I'm not sure. There, she succeeded. There's the unlucky male who's gone, oh, can you believe that? Did he drop to the ground?
No, he's in the middle there. He's in the middle. Like looking like a...
Oh, but he did drop though.
Yeah, she pushed it.
So Ephraim's guests kindly are helping tell us what's going on here. So you would have seen her peck him on the head there. Incredible. She was not interested in that, and possibly this male chameleon may find himself on the wrong side of the law this morning. And he probably fell down about a foot before he managed to clamber back onto a branch. I'm just going to try and creep forward a little bit more. Absolutely awesome. So who would have thought that chameleons would have upstaged a leopard kill? There we go. That's a better view. So this is the male, and isn't it remarkable how he can change color? Now I'd suggest taking screenshots because you'll be able to compare just how quickly he transforms from this grey colour. I'm guessing he's going to probably head back towards a greenish, more neutral colour once things calm down. And if things heighten and get more aggressive, he'll probably go black in coloration. Tebs, why don't you go a little bit further up and find a female, because it's remarkable the contrast in coloration between the male and the female. Look at that, she's hard to see, but she's dead center in the middle of the shot. And look at how they kind of bob and weave as they move, and that's to simulate looking like a leaf that's blowing in the wind so that predators don't detect them. This is absolutely awesome. She's disappeared, but the male, I think, is still in a spot where we can see him.
She's right on the top of the running away from him for sure.
Well, we've just got a comment through from Kitchen, and I think, Kitchen, you're right, that the female got exactly what she wanted by getting rid of this male, who's still thinking about pursuing her. And Kitchen mentioned that she threw him down to the curb. I think he only got halfway down to the curb, sadly, as he miraculously managed to grip back on. But wasn't that wonderful to see how she really did attempt to teach him a lesson? And Raid Freak says this kind of treatment is the story of his life. I'm sorry to hear that you are getting pecked on the head by females when trying to court them. That is not a good situation to be in, and I apologize for that situation that you find yourself in. Well, I can't see the female anymore. Apologies, Red Freak. You're a lady, so it's not a man that's getting the apologies. I'm getting confused here. Anyway, glad we've cleared that up, that you are a male and you are being attacked by women when you try and court them. Maybe you are using too forceful a technique like this male. I'm not convinced that the female chameleon had given consent to what we just witnessed. And you guys are throwing through some fairly controversial questions, so I'm going to refrain from answering them before I get into trouble from either of the male or the female sexes. So I'm going to remain neutral, but you guys are more than welcome to keep bantering amongst yourselves, whether you watching on YouTube and commenting on that feed or on Twitter. I just wanted to try and reposition and see if we can't get a view of this female. I'm happy to see that the male has kind of calmed down. Just look back over my right shoulder to make sure Karula hasn't returned to the duiker kill. Chameleons are masters of disguise and disappearing, and this is a great example of exactly how well they do that. Can't see too much from this angle, but let me just reposition the vehicle. Give me a moment. Okay, let's try and work out who's where. Okay, the male Tibbs I can see. Sure, it's so difficult in here. But the male is in there somewhere. Okay. If you go a little bit higher up, he's just a little bit above where you are. If you zoom in there, you'll get him, I think. hard for me to see clearly on the monitor, but I'm fairly confident he is in that little spot that you're on, Tebs.
Is the man on the side?
Whew. Tricky business. What's remarkable is how that female's just managed to disappear so well. Possibly so well that now the male doesn't know where to find her. But he is slowly making his way further up this tree. But I can't work out who's where and what's at the moment. But wasn't that remarkable? And maybe Nikki and Kirsty in the final control could put together a little slow motion clip of that female pecking the male on the head. That'll be nice to see that slowed down a little bit. It all happened so quickly that I battled to see exactly what happened. And the girls are already busy preparing that clip, so we'll just wait patiently for them to get that ready for you guys. Now let's try and work out again where this male chameleon is, because I know we can find it. So this branch over there, Tibbs, if we follow that up a little bit more, there's the male through there, somewhere through here. But we've got different angles. Yeah, you can see him, and it's difficult to see, but he is in the center of your shot there. You can possibly, if you just go a tiny bit higher, Tibbs, we might be able to see his head. Yeah, he is dead center in the middle of your shot, but incredibly difficult to see. At least we've got the male. Huh.
Yes, I can see. It looks like brown.
And he's doing a great job
I can see.
using those chromatopores, which are the different little pigment cells that a chameleon will dilate or increase with certain different colors in order to blend with their surroundings. He stayed this brown color, which is the color of the branches that he's on. The female was using a different technique of blending in more with the leaves with that green coloration, and I think she's winning because she is the one that's disappeared completely from all of our view. The good news is you guys are about to get a treat and watch the slow motion clip of this female teaching the male a lesson. Enjoy. Well, I'm sure you all enjoyed that slow-mo clip. What would have been interesting is if you may have seen a flash of orange as she struck down on him, and that flash of orange would have been from under her throat, and it's a large contribution to why they are called the flap-necked chameleon. When they are feeling distressed or concerned, they will flare out this flap below their throat, which has bright orange coloration when expanded. So you may have got a flash of that, but it all happened so quickly, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an incredible morning, a lot of surprises. Certainly didn't expect to see Karula catching a duiker right in front of us live, and was also pleasantly surprised by the fact that there was also some lion on the property. Finally, some lion have come to visit us on Nkuhuma, and not just visits, put on a serious show with a buffalo kill with some kind of intermittent potential mating. Let's take a look through the gap here. You can actually see quite clearly from where we are where the duiker is, which is on the kind of bottom of your screen now, and the leopard lying there beyond it, and some crested francolins busy grooming themselves, just like the leopard is beginning to groom itself now. The francolins are sitting on that fallen down tree, knockthorn tree showing. You can see the duiker still moving and struggling on the foreground there. So, morning of unexpected scenes. but we are incredibly fortunate to be all here together, sharing these experiences and memories together, because this has been a morning for the memory books, that's for certain. Okay, everyone, well, a very big thank you to all of your contributions, involvement, and joining us on the Sunrise Safari. We've all been spoiled. To those of you who phoned your friends and tried to urge them to join us, thank you for that. Keep doing that. We really do appreciate it. And looking forward to the Sunset Safari. Great prospects for later on today. Over to Brent.
So, while you were with Scott and those incredible mating chameleons, the lioness joined, and they did have a little bit of an argument, lots of growling and slapping, but nothing too serious. What is she seeing? What's behind us, Phil? Oh, there's a hooded vulture has just landed on the ground right behind us. And it almost looked like that lioness was ready to chase it.
Okay.
So, 2 vultures have just descended in the last 5 minutes. So he's right on the carcass, where the carcass was, picking on the scraps, and there's a possibility she might chase it. There we go. She's stalking the vulture. See her ears going flat a little bit. The vulture decided discretion is the better part of valor. If she comes in to where the lioness or the other 2 are, there might also be a bit of growling. And maybe had a little bit of an argument. There's very little left of that buffalo. So, Clown Sharon says, with lions being back, is that problems for the impala and wildebeest babies? It is possible, Sharon, that could lead to problems for them. But at the moment, they're quite far from where the wildebeest herd normally hangs out. We're right down sort of in the northeastern corner of Djuma. I am hoping they stay on Djuma, but they are very close to 2 different boundaries, the eastern and the northern. So, oh, there we go, growling. See, as the one comes closer. So, what an incredible morning it's been. Lion, leopard, chameleons, buffalo, and I can't believe we just missed those lions hunting the buffalo, but that's the way the bush goes. It is live, and we can't pre-plan everything, and it just happened this time to be a little bit unlucky, but hopefully next time we might be there from start to finish. But great to have some of the Nkuhuma girls back and a Birmingham boy around. And hopefully they'll still be here on the Sunset Safari. So for the last few seconds of drive, let's have a look at these girls.